Hey, hey, I am coming to you with my dear husband.
Hello. Good evening.
Okay, so a while back we did love lessons. We did one together, and I promised for the podcast there was going to be a season two where Mr. Hester would be a part of the podcast. So now this is the kickoff to season two. And what we're talking about today is real love versus fake love. So I thought that this was a great topic to start with just because of the fact that I think we found real love together. So,
I would have to agree.
yes. So, we are actually recording the podcast from Instagram. So, you will get to experience that. You can actually check out the podcast if you don't have time to stay on the full time that we're going over the material or whatever. You can also find it on like Apple Podcasts. You can find it on Spotify, Anchor, several others. Just hit me up or even comment if you want the link sent directly to you. So as when we get officially started, I may not be shouting out people, but right now I see you Southside, I see you Aries. So what's happening? But once we really get started, we both will say hey to everybody towards the end because we do appreciate everybody that watches, everybody that engages, especially if you have any questions and things like that. I invite you to go ahead and share those questions. So, how this works, we are going to share some information, some insight, our insight. I am a life coach and my husband is a minister. We're both teachers. We're both mentors. So we're just sharing some insight about love and relationships. And this is definitely not new to us because we have had our fair share of experience with relationships. We actually both have been married before. So, and then now we know what it's like to go from toxic to healthy. So, so that's the point of this. For those that's wondering, what's this love lessons about? I don't get it. So the point of it is definitely to help others to create healthy relationships. So if you're in something that's toxic, I'm sure we will have a topic that will help you to work through some of that stuff. And if you are in something healthy, then we definitely will have some topics to help you build on that relationship and the foundation for that as well. So I think that the podcast definitely can help anyone. However, my big why is I am doing this, and you'll have to share why you're doing this, but I am doing this because I definitely want to help youth. I am a teacher. I work at a dropout recovery school with the ages of 16 to 21. So I have a real passion for youth. So, and I made a lot of mistakes when I was young. So I have a passion for helping young people at around 16 or so, all through the 20s, where I just was struggling on the struggle bus to make better decisions. So having the insight of someone a little older, I think is definitely helpful. And I also gather information from other people that have been there, done that, and I'm sharing this information in hopes to help some of the young people I work with. And they all know Aries is on here that just graduated, but they know that we talk about relationships in class. They usually come up and ask, and we just talk about it because I'm about helping you with your life and not just helping you with English, because that's what I teach. So what about you? Why are you doing this?
I'm also very passionate about young people, but unlike my beautiful wife, I am really particularly interested in seeing men, both young, middle-aged and older, healed from broken relationships. Contrary to popular opinion, Men have feelings too. We may express them differently, um, but yet we still suffer from disappointment. We still suffer from a broken heart. We suffer from rejection and abandonment issues. I would like to see a healing and a restoration come to men so that they can be in those healthy relationships that they desire. And that's pretty much it in a nutshell for me.
I'm glad you mentioned healing because that's definitely what I'm about to, and I totally forgot to mention that
Awesome.
directly. Yeah, so we're in
Good.
this together. We're on the same page. Okay, so that being said, I did want to give a little background of why we're doing this. If you haven't ever heard of Love Lessons or don't know what I'm talking about or whatever, now you know. So let's go ahead and get into the topic for today. So again, the topic for today is real love versus fake love. So for me, I'm such a passionate person. So I'm like, oh my gosh, I love him. Like that's how I was. I have no problem holding back. I never hold back how I feel, I guess I would say. Would you agree?
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah,
If there's something that you're feeling, you're going to let it be known.
Yes. So that being said, if I'm feeling the strong love for this person, and just a passion for this person, then I'm going to share. But what I have found is that I really didn't know what love was. So let's start with that. That being our foundation. What is love?
Okay, well, before I go into this definition, as my wife has stated before, I am a minister. I love God. I love His Word. With that being said, I know that there's a lot of us who have our own personal definitions of what love is, based upon what we've experienced, based upon probably what was in the culture of our own households. But the Bible is very, very clear and distinct about what real love is. And I'm going to share with you 1 Corinthians 13 chapter, verses 4 through 8. Very popular scripture, but it states that love is patient, love is kind, it does not envy, it does not boast, it is not proud, it does not dishonor others, it is not self-seeking, it is not easily angered, it keeps no record of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always preserves. And that is the definition of love. So we have to really have a moment of transparency and ask ourselves, do we first understand what true love is? And are we able to display and walk in it? And I'll pass it back over to my beautiful wife.
Okay, so I love to start with the spiritual foundation because I believe that is where all truth really comes from. But I know because I work with young people, because I was young before, they're like, yeah. Like, what are you really saying? You know what I mean? So I like to bring some practicality to it. So I have found, and it's really an anonymous source. I love giving credit because, I'm an English teacher, so I cannot really give credit to this particular source. But I'm going to share with you some signs that it's true love versus fake love. Okay, so you might want to take notes. I'm going to try to post this as well, but I think that it was very, very helpful to make it like super crystal clear for you. So true love is going to be self-sacrificing. So if you are the kind of person that you don't really want to do anything that's going to put you out the way, like if you are a person that has to be convenient for you, you're probably not in love. And I've actually talked to you about this and my dad about this, about where you said you were in a phase where things needed to be convenient for you. Does that sound familiar?
Yeah.
I know my dad said that was the way it was.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Or if it wasn't, then he wasn't.
I would contribute most of that to emotional immaturity.
That's a whole topic in itself.
At the time, but that's a whole nother topic in and of itself. But yes, I did want things to be convenient for me. So whatever accountability that I could avoid, I would avoid it. But life has a way of teaching you and giving you a different perspective, and giving you a different viewpoint, the hard way. I had to learn some things the hard way when it came to that, but thank God that I did learn. Also, I wanted to mention in here that was something that was very good with it when my wife was talking about true love versus fake love. And this is really important. Fake love plays games. Can anybody relate to that? Hides their feelings. Can anybody relate to that? And tries to manipulate emotions of others to gain the upper hand. If you've experienced this, then you know that you have been a part of something that wasn't real. So I wanted to make sure that was put in there, and we didn't forget to mention that. And brought that up specifically because I think that's something that everybody listening or tuning in can relate to. I think that we've all experienced something like that on certain levels.
And another big thing is fake love. It only wants what it wants. So if you've ever been with a person that as long as they're getting what they want, then they're good. But as soon as you start getting what you want and for them, it doesn't feel like it's equal or whatever, then it's a big blow up or whatever. That's a sign that it's definitely fake love. Because there's definitely times where I know you have really catered to me, and I didn't do anything. I like to reciprocate, but I'm not always able to catch up. It's kind of how I feel like I can't do enough. So, but when it's imbalanced like that, it's not like he's like, oh, well, I got to pull back because,
no,
I got to pull back. So
no, not at all. That's one thing about being in agreement. And let me just throw this in as a side note, especially for you young ladies, to give you a different perspective on what submission is. Society has given us a real negative connotation of what submission really is. But in a nutshell and real quick, all submission really means is that you and whomever it is that you're involved with come into agreement. That's really all that means, is that y'all agree. And how can two walk together unless they agree? Okay, so my wife and I are able to walk together because we agree. And the things that I do for her come from a pure heart, not expecting anything in return. It's just so that she knows that her husband loves her, is in love with her, is going to provide, is going to try his best to protect, provide, pray over, cover, whatever is necessary to make her feel secure and loved is part of my responsibility. And that's part of, being that leader as a man is part of what makes it easier for us to stay in agreement, if that makes sense. So for you young men, you have to be able to lead by example, and that's going to require some sacrifice. It's going to require some selflessness, and it is going to require, as I stated earlier, a certain level of emotional maturity, knowing that you may not always get in return what you give out, not always, but in some shape, form, or fashion, it will come back to you. Because, and here's another little secret, women watch you. And however you operate, that's what they'll follow. So, what you put out is what's going to come back to you. So I always make sure, like my wife says, I always make sure that I always got something in the bank, so that when I'm not able to produce on a high level like that, it's okay, babe, I know you're doing your best. That's kind of the response I'll get because of what I've already established.
So essentially, all that being said, is you give out of your heart. So when you're really in love, being that that's our topic, you give out of your heart. You're not giving expecting something in return. So a lot of us have been guilty of fake love too. So let's be honest. I definitely was guilty of fake love. If I was in one of the dating relationships that I really didn't see this person being my husband per se, I would do certain things in hopes that I would get a certain response. So that's a dangerous decision. Like, that is a dangerous decision, and it's definitely fake, right? So we got a couple of more, and then we might have to do a part two on this because it looks like we're not gonna get through everything, but we did hit a lot of it. So true love is romantic intimacy, but this one's the kicker. Fake love is just sex. So true love is when intimacy is being close, really connecting. But when it's fake, it's just really with your body. So some people, they really feel like because of the feelings that they get, because of their entanglements, that's really true love, but our bodies are going to respond in a certain way. So it's easy to get that confused, but when you're really not connected with that person, with your mind, with your soul, with your spirit, and all of that, that is a whole different topic, because we really can go down a rabbit hole on just that topic alone. But I definitely think that that's worth being said, because I know a lot of times after, especially when I was younger, after that were to happen, and I do not recommend it, definitely abstinence would be the way. But if you did make that turn, then you could easily get confused, easily get confused and feel like that was real love because you are connecting on that level. And that is not necessarily the case, because some people, they will not tell you that it's just sex for them. They're not going to tell you this is just sex for me. But there is a level of intimacy that you just don't have. So one more, and then we're going to go into sharing a love story. So we're going to share how we figured out that this is like real between us, instead of like just yet another relationship, because we've definitely had our share of dates. So what else did we true love tries to resolve conflict. So you're not fighting to be right. Fake love, you just want to prove that you are right. And we definitely, it looks like our life is a fairy tale, but we definitely have our share of arguments.
Yeah, but
we definitely do.
You know what I can say about when we do have what I call heated fellowship? I don't think it's a situation where we're both just trying to prove that we're right. I think that we're both trying to find a way to resolve the conflict, but we just have different methods and different ideology on how that should be. So we just may disagree, and it may take a while for us to come back into disagreement on that particular subject.
But we're never trying to be right.
Yeah, I don't think
neither one of us.
I don't ever see that you're trying to be right. I think that we try to understand each other. And sometimes, emotions come into play, and things may get lost in translation. But our ultimate goal is to try to come to an understanding.
So that's what true love does. So if you've ever you thought you were in love with somebody, but at every turn when you're trying to talk to them, they are basically just trying to prove that you're wrong and they're right, then that's a sign that it may not be real. It may not be what you thought it was. So yeah, we're definitely going to just do a part 2 on this, because there's just so much that we didn't even get to, and we're definitely not going to be on here all night. So let's get into the next part of the podcast, where we talk about our love story. So let me see. There's been several people to come on, so just wanted to pause and say thank you for everybody that's popping on. Monet, I see you're on here. Byron, is that Eli? I could have skincare dresses, so I'm not sure. Okay, so there's been a few people that popped on. Just wanted to take a moment to acknowledge those people. But let's get into our love story and how we kind of figured it out. This will be interesting for us.
Yeah,
Because I'm like, how do we? So, I guess the question is like, how did we know that it was real versus one of those experiences that we've had with other people?
well, for for me, there were some things that I had did or expressed towards you that I would consider out of character for myself. But I knew I was being led by the Holy Spirit, and there were certain things that the Holy Spirit told me to do. And I know it was the Holy Spirit because I wouldn't have done it on my own, especially like on a first date. Remember our first date? I got you a gift, a card,
Oh
and a
yeah,
rose.
yeah.
And this is the first date. And that's not something normally I would do, but it seemed to reach you and touch you in a way.
Yes.
And the response that I got, okay, it was encouraging, and it just made me more comfortable, much more comfortable with doing more things in that regard. I would say that the way I pursued you let me know that you were the one and this was real, because it's just not my baseline behavior to do that.
Okay.
And be, pursuing a woman. I'm very cautious because as we described before, a lot of people, both men and women, have very, very, very selfish motives. And what I've learned is that a lot of us need to heal from, past relationships, things even from our childhood that prevent us from both giving and receiving real love. So I had just kind of put myself out there. And when I put myself out there, I put myself out there.
Yes,
There
you did.
was no room. There was not going to be any room for any type of manipulation. There wasn't going to be any room for, okay, well, I'll just go out on a few more dates and get something to eat, free meals. It was none
no.
of that. It was none of that.
Oh my gosh.
It was, hey, like Eddie Murphy did in Boomerang.
Oh my god.
This is my Mac Daddy vibe I'm giving
my
you.
goodness.
What's up? There was not going to
I'm
be
like,
a
have
friend
the
zone.
kids seen Boomerang though?
There was not going to be
I
a
hope
friend
that's not-
zone. So I conducted myself in a way where she was going to either have to, get with it, or she was just going to have to tell me no. And that's kind of how it went down for me. That's how I kind of knew, okay, yeah, this is real. And then it has just grown and progressed from there in such a beautiful way. I am a very blessed and favored man. So I give God glory for that experience.
So I'm gonna say a little bit, but I do want you to make it plain because some people don't understand when they say, well, I was led by the Spirit. Like, you got to pretend as if you are 16 or 22 or something. They're like, what is led by the
Okay.
Spirit? What does that mean?
Okay, I'll explain it this way. You know how you hear some people say, something in me just told me to do A, B, and C.
Yeah.
That's not just something in you saying that. That is the Spirit. That is the Holy Spirit. Especially if it's leading you to do something that is from a place of selflessness, a place of giving, a place of sacrifice. If it's causing you to sacrifice, if it's causing you to give, if it's causing you to be selfless, and something in me just told me to give you this, something in me just told me to do this, that is the Holy Spirit.
Okay.
So I will rephrase it and say it so that kind of everybody can understand. Something in me just moved me to court her in a different way that I've courted any other female interest before.
And I know a lot of people know what courting is, but for anybody who doesn't, what is courting?
Courting is a little bit different than dating. Dating is like, I'm just playing the field. I'm just seeing what's out there. It's nothing serious. I don't have any attachments. You date who you want to date. I'm going to date who I want to date. And we'll just, see where the chips fall. It's just whatever happens, happens. Courting is a little bit different. Courting is, okay, from a male perspective, courting is, you know what? I'm losing everybody else's number. This is who I want. This is who I'm going after. And I'm putting all my cards on the table. That's courting. And even after you establish a relationship, courting or pursuing her should never stop. We're married, but I still pursue her.
Yes.
And then that makes her feel wanted. That makes her feel desired. That makes her feel appreciated. And then, from that, it's reciprocated. But as I stated before, it always starts with the man. It starts with the man. The man is the head. So there's a great responsibility that's going to fall on you young men when you make that decision to really pursue a woman, in all seriousness.
Okay, so that definitely helps with clarity with the difference between courting and dating. For the ladies that do want to be married, I will say that I did mostly date, and I did try a lot of different strategies, and courting was the only thing that really worked for me. So that being said, hopefully that helps. And if you have questions about that, then let me know, and we can do a follow-up video or a podcast on what that was like, because I would have loved to know before a little more details as far as courting versus dating. But how I knew that it was real, because I just didn't have doubts about him. Like, I am the type of person that really analyzes, and I have been guilty of overanalyzing. So, so that being said, I really could trust him. So he was very consistent. I could respect him. I could trust him. I was safe. Because I didn't have the anxiety that I would normally feel in those relationships where I'm like, oh my God, I love him. Like, I had so much anxiety in those situationships where I was always calling one of my girlfriends and saying, well, what you think about this? But with him, I may call a girlfriend and say, what you think about this? But it was more me trying to process what I was experiencing and just using wisdom. It wasn't because he was doing some stuff that was just completely just wrong, and I was like trying to find a way to justify like what he was doing so I could continue the relationship. So he definitely, I wouldn't say that it was perfect, but it was like the three things that I believe that you need, which would be the trust, the respect, and it wasn't loyalty, but for some reason loyalty, we just talked about this not long ago. I said it was trust, respect, and love. Those three components, I think those things were there for me, especially the trust and the respect, because he didn't do anything to make me like start slowly losing respect and start slowly losing trust with him. So that's how I knew that this was something different. Like, this is somebody that I can trust with my heart, and that you were always like looking out for me, like what was best for me. And that was rare. I don't think that's one of the things that my dad told me to look for, that he was like, when a man really loves you, he's going to do what's best for you. And before, it was always them doing what was best for them. And then if I can get in where I fit in type of situation, but he was always like looking out for me. So even with the distance, little stuff like, since he lived in Cincinnati and I lived here, like, no, I'm not going to have you drive out here, stuff like that. Like, I'd be like, oh.
That was weird because she was willing to do that. And I just, something in me just made me, I was like, no, that's not I'll tell you what, that's not true. That wasn't, to me, that wasn't true manhood. Um, when it comes to relationships, young men, if you're going to pursue a woman, be a man. Um, and part of being a man is some things you just have to do and suck it up, even when it's inconvenient. When you're tired, when you don't feel like it, there are just certain things that are expected of me, and not unrealistic expectations, but to when you are physically capable, um, even if the woman that you're interested in offers, which is great, because what that showed me was that, okay, yeah, she's truly interested, and she's like, I don't have any problem coming down, it's not a big deal to me. No, that's not right. Just, yeah, I can remember, I think it was like one weekend I was just really tired, and it was like, I'm just gonna stay here tonight, and I'll come down tomorrow. I'll come visit you tomorrow morning. I think that's how that went. But every decision that I've tried to make has been, with her best interest in heart. And that just comes from, partially my upbringing. And the truth of the matter is, those who we may have an opportunity to minister to may not have had that example. So prayerfully and hopefully, I can be that example that some of you younger men can look to when you're pursuing that relationship, because it is serious. It is serious, and there is a great expectation from men. So you got to be willing to fill those shoes.
And I will say, if the female doesn't inspire you to do it, then it's likely that she might not be the one. So, and I definitely was not the one for a lot of people where they just were not inspired to do certain things for me, but they would look at me in a certain way, but all of that was really ultimately lust. So I thought they were like really into me, and I thought I was seeing love in their eyes, but I was seeing lust in their eyes, because their behavior told me that I did not inspire them to basically make that sacrifice. Like they were definitely not in love with me, and that was a hard pill to swallow because of my ego. Basically, it was kind of hard. Like, wow, like I'm not good enough. But it wasn't even about me not being good enough. It's just certain people are just not the one for you, and that's okay. So that being said, that is how we figured out that it was really. And before we wrap this part up, because we're going to go into the love lesson, I think it's important to say that I also knew that it was real because before I met you, I had prayed about my husband.
Yes.
So that's where I knew, like, okay, it's highly likely that this is real because of the things that was going on, but also because I also added prayer into it. So I definitely wanted to throw that in there. And if you like, well, that just feels weird, I don't really hear from God and things like that. It's just a conversation. It's not like, I try to not be super deep, like, so where people can't, like, what are you talking about? You heard, like, did God just say he is the one? Like, no, I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that I invited God into our relationship. So I basically said that I wanted God's help. And I know in the past, there's been times where I did not do that. And it didn't turn out well for me. So I definitely didn't want to close that part without saying that.
Same here. There are some things that I prayed. And I think one of my biggest prayers was, Lord, prepare my heart. Just prepare me. For when that time comes, I'll be ready. And I'll be willing to live up to those expectations, especially as a man of God, how God looks at a man who is involved or being married to a woman from a godly perspective, because the truth of the matter is that God really pays. Before I tell you what, before God instituted the church, he instituted marriage. So that's how serious this is. Just to give you some perspective. First institution he put together was marriage. Um, so, God instituted marriage to reflect his relationship between the groom, and then the church, which is the bride. So how I treat my wife, God is looking at that. And honestly, how I treat her is contingent upon, how I get my prayers answered at this point as a husband is largely contingent upon how I treat her as my wife. Now, that's a perspective that not many may be aware of, but that is one of the fundamental truths of marriage. How you treat your wife will depend on how you get your prayers answered.
Yeah, so it's a lot deeper than what it looks.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say that when you're young and you really are like, I'm not really ready for marriage, I don't even know what all of it means. Like, find out. Like, that's why we're doing this, is for you to find out and dig into it and do your own research and figure it out. And before you get into a relationship where somebody is really falling for you, like, be clear about where you are. Because I think a lot of people, they're just going with the flow with the quote unquote dating. Mm-hmm. And then people start falling for them because in their mind, they do know what love is, and they do know what, mm-hmm. That they want to be happily married one day. And you, on the other hand, may be like, well, I'm not really sure what I want. So that's just so unfair. So that being said, that's how you get into fake love. And you do the fake love just for your own benefit. Like, a lot of us have been guilty of it. I have been guilty of it. So, of giving fake love so I can get what I wanted out of the mm-hmm. situation. So, but we could probably do that in a part 2, as far as giving fake love and, just kind of exploring what real love versus fake love is. Because I don't feel like we dug into it enough, because there was so much more to be said.
It's a lot of information in this topic.
Yeah, it was. So what we can do now, let's go ahead and get into the love lessons. What I wanted to do is if you have, I don't know if you want to go first on this one, or
what's that?
With the love lesson, because I'm just gonna, okay, so you're gonna wrap it up for us. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share with you, this is not completely just about real love versus fake love. I was in a Clubhouse room, and I surveyed everyone and said, okay, these people, they had to be 30 and up. And I said, okay, what was one of your greatest lessons that you have learned, and what, if you could do it all over again, what would you tell your younger self? So I wanted to share with you the love lessons that the people in that particular room, they gave me. I would say it's about 13 things on the list. And then I'm going to have Charles go ahead and wrap it up as far as the love lessons more pertaining to this particular topic. So you might want to take notes, or you can also find the podcast on a replay. So number 1 was focus on your relationship with yourself. 2 was make sure that you learn how to make yourself happy. So instead of looking for other people to make yourself happy, learn how to please yourself. Number 3, don't fall into the trap of the pressure of being in a relationship. Like, you have to be in a relationship, or like for ladies, you have to keep a man, or for guys, you always have to have a girl, like the baddest chick, that kind of thing. Don't fall into that peer pressure. 4 was ask more questions, listen more than you talk, especially with dating situations. That will help you not to fall into the fake love trap. 5, Throw away what you don't want and make your own decisions. So even though we're sharing all this information with you, your job is to take all this information and make your own decisions and do what's best for you. 6 was learn who you are, and so that you can date with intention. So the more you get to know yourself, then the easier it is. And I think that's why we were able to connect so quickly, because we met and we got married within 9 months, and that I definitely couldn't have done that when I was younger.
Right.
Because I really just did not know myself well enough to be able to do that. What else? Number 7, find a relationship mentor. So this is kind of a form of it. When you find people that you do see that, like, they have from what I can see, they have a relationship that I would want to have. Then find out more about what they go through and what that's like. And find a mentor really for your life. I know my mentor, she can speak into every area. So whether it's a relationship I'm talking about, my business, family life, or whatever. So find a mentor. 8 is don't try to fix broken people.
Ooh.
So that one was pretty heavy. That one was pretty heavy. I don't remember who said it, but that's a whole topic in itself. Don't try to fix. Well, honestly, that reminds me of trauma bonds. So I wanted to do one on that. So yeah, we're gonna talk about that one later, because that one's a big one. 9 is stay true to yourself. And what did they say? Stay true to yourself in the dark, humble in the spotlight. So that was a cute way of saying it. I don't know who I was quoting with that one. Stay true to yourself in the dark, humble in the spotlight. So don't ever forget who you are, I guess. If you're a little slower like me, like, now what? Stay true to yourself in the dark. But just don't ever forget who you are. So don't get lost in those relationships, because sometimes you get with somebody and you're feeling all great. They might be gaslighting you, or maybe it is healthy, who knows, but you end up losing yourself in that situation. So stay true to yourself. Don't allow people to manipulate your mindset. That was a big one. And that's, I think, another topic in itself too. Like, just how people can really manipulate. That whole narcissist thing has been coming up so much. I think they throw around that word too much. But I think that particular one was related to that, like the whole narcissist movement. 11 was learn how to communicate. I think I wrote here in parentheses, I must have been thinking about parents, because when you're young, I think even when you get older, if your parents are still living, I think that's a great way to start in learning, like, how to communicate. If you're not communicating, you're not open with your parents, then how are you really going to be in a relationship? Like, if you can't express yourself, because those are the people that brought you into the world. So you should be able to express yourself to your parents. 12, there's power in saying no. So learning how to say no is super important.
No.
Yeah, you said you got the grace to say no.
Yeah, no.
You never say no to me.
But you know what? There's not too much that you require of me where I really have to say no. But there are times where I have said, well, maybe we should discuss that. I don't think I've ever had to come out and say no. Because what you're looking for and what you're trying to do, it's always been, number one, reasonable. And number two, you had goals, dreams, objectives before you met me. So most of what you asked me to do is to accommodate you while you still pursue those things. So part of me being selfless in that, no, I'm not going to do that because you need to be doing A, B, and C. No, part of who you are, part of who I fell in love with, is that woman that had all these ideas and wanted to do these love lessons and wanted to do podcasts and things of that nature. So a lot of that, what you're requiring of me, I am more than willing and happy to accommodate, because it's part of what makes you who you are, and
Yeah.
who you are is who I fell in love with. So I can't take that away from you. So it's not a lot that I have to say no to.
Yeah, I was just teasing you.
Unless you
I would be
want me
completely
to go walking with you and stuff like that. I don't know. I don't do a lot of walking. But
Yeah. Yeah. I was just teasing you because you can totally tell me no and it will be fine. So to wrap this up, I think we should bring it back to the topic, because I did want to share that, because I've been sitting on those gems for a while. So I definitely wanted to share that.
you want to talk about this?
If you could bring it into
Oh,
the...
no. I don't have to.
You don't have to talk about that. Well, what he's
We can
talking
leave that
about
for
as far as what we didn't quite get to is the types of love, and we can do that in a part 2. One thing that I learned is that, just to put it in a nutshell, that when it's real love, then it's going to include like a love that you would have for your family. You love, like, I love you like you're my family. You're my husband now, but I love you to that extent. I love you like a friend, and then I also love you like my romantic partner. Like, all of that is encompassed in loving you. Like, it's not just, some people you really are like not that into, like, I love you, I really like you and everything, but no. Or I only love you in the bedroom kind of way, but I can't really see myself really coming to your funeral. Like wow. I'm not. That sounds horrible, but
wow,
it is what it is. I mean, be honest.
Sheesh.
Like, be honest. Like, you really, some people, like, I do, like, I really love that part, but I don't really.
What's interesting? You and I have gone through those things and have come out on the other side. Mm-hmm. So looking back in retrospect, knowing that type of stuff, like what you just described, is real.
Yeah.
To me now is like, oh my God, like, were we really like that? Was I?
Yes.
And there's some things that I can remember where I was very selfish. Thank God for repentance, but to these things that we have described, man or woman, if you are observing these characteristics, where an individual is selfish, where an individual, every time there's a breakdown in the relationship, it's always your fault, and they never take accountability. These are some serious warning signs. They're calling you when they need something, but when you need something, they're never available. Things of that nature. They are telling you exactly how important you are. Pay attention and govern yourself accordingly the first time, and you will save yourself a lot of heartache, a lot of confusion, and a lot of disappointment. Because when an individual shows you that that's who they are, run. Run. If you don't take anything else from what we said tonight, when an individual shows these type of characters, you're good enough to lay up with, but when I need a shoulder to cry on, or when I need advice, or when I just need some comfort that doesn't involve some type of physical gratification for you, then all of a sudden you're not available. If it were me, that would be the last time you'd ever hear from me.
Yeah.
So, run. And don't second guess, because they've already showed you. And on that note, I'm done.
Drop the mic on that one.
Like,
that
wow.
was pretty heavy. That is the essence of fake love. So there you have it. There was so much more that we could say. So we definitely have to do a part 2. Maybe we'll focus more on fake love, since we focus more on what real love was this time. But I did see that we had a message here. Ari said, interesting message, guys. Thank you for the message today. God bless and good night. So if any of you have any messages for us or any feedback, then definitely let us know. Our goal, hey, Miss Lane, our goal is to definitely be more consistent with this. I know when I started it, I was consistent. That's kind of where I got some of your attention doing that. So I was pretty consistent. But then after getting married and like just building our life together, it did get to be a lot. So now you are actually the co-host I was looking for. So now that we are, I have the male perspective now because I wanted the male perspective, but it seemed like I wasn't connecting with the right guys because I felt like they was like, I wanted it to be kind of platonic and they didn't want it to be that way. So now I have my husband do it. Yeah, it was not working.
Yeah, well,
so,
hey.
So now I have a co-host. So you got the female point of view, you have a male point of view. So any questions, some people don't like to ask questions like on the live, so you can just inbox those questions to either of us. What are you, MOG Hester? Did I get it right? Mm-hmm. So he's MOG Hester, and you're on my live at Morning You Coach on Instagram. You can also email me at morningyoucoaching at gmail.com. But we will be back soon. We are thinking a couple of weeks, but we're working on getting the schedule and everything together so that we can be a little more consistent. So I do have a YouTube channel as well. So you should be able to find the videos there, like the older videos there as well. So, but thank you for tuning in. We really appreciate it. I try to end most of my videos here with no matter what you're going through or what you've been through, there's still more in you. So I'll end with that. Any final words?
Just be mindful of the decisions that you make, because every decision that you make has a consequence, whether positive or negative. So I think that would be it that I have to say.
Okay. Well, that's a wrap. Until next time.